All right. Thank you, Derek, for the talk, and thanks for covering some of the points I might touch on. I know we're a little bit behind on time, so I'm just going to give you an update on how the KRTP has been going, and then we're going to move on to some other presentations that are going to talk a lot more about the projects that the KRTP has been involved in this year. So just to start off, I mean, this is my first Manitoba convention. So brief intro, I'm Matthew Polinsky. I'm the new lead of the KRTP since last April. I haven't had a chance to meet a lot of you yet, and I've been kind of being not only the tech lead, but the tech guy for the projector in the convention, so I hope I have more time to mingle here. But I'm originally from near Yorkton, Saskatchewan. Grew up in a beekeeping family, and I've been working in commercial beekeeping on and off over the past 15 years. In the past 3 or 4 years, I've been getting more active in the research and support realms of honeybee world. So first, I just want to talk a bit about the funding. I think it's been mentioned a couple of times, but a lot of us weren't in the room during the AGM. So just to say that the MBA has worked really hard at getting the program funded. It's fully funded for 5 years. That's 50% put in by the province and 50% put in by the feds through the Sustainable Canadian Agricultural Partnership. So 1.2 million over 5 years. And notably, in 2024, we'll be able to hire a second full-time staff member. So even though we were technically funded for 2023, there's a bit of a lag getting all the funds in place and everything flowing. But now everything's really falling into place. Additionally, we have been allocated $7,500 from the Manitoba canola growers. So just to talk a little bit about some of the services and activities we had going on this year and ongoing. We do offer hygienic testing for those people raising their own queens or breeding queens. It's $15 per hive, up to $100 if there's large travel expenses involved, but we try to keep this really affordable. And this year we're going to be placing an order for UBO. So if you're interested in the UBO test, please contact myself or Ian as soon as possible. That order is going to be getting placed in the next couple weeks here. I would expect within 2 weeks, so please contact me. It's not something we can really overstock. There's like a 1-year expiry according to the manufacturer, so we can't stock it more than that. We'll bring in kind of what we estimate we need, and it's about $20 per test. Yeah, syrup testing, we're going to cover that a lot, so I'll just leave that for now. The bee health monitoring program continued, so this is where the KRTP will come out and sample producer colonies for Varroa, Nosema, we could do viruses, and then we can send off bees to the NBDC for AFB, EFB. So this will be offered again by the KRTP. But right now we're just trying to find this balance between offering this beekeepers to people who find it valuable, whether that's for a number of different reasons, but also not using too much of our resources doing things for beekeepers that they could easily do themselves, which is scooping bees off certain parts out of their colonies. We are thinking about a self-sampling option that might reduce our labor inputs and bring down the cost for the beekeepers as well. So essentially just being an important piece in getting the data back to beekeepers. But I'm going to be posting a registration in the next couple weeks here in March, and you can always contact me for more information anytime. So yeah, we hosted we organized a queen rearing workshop with Jonathan Hofer in Ely, Manitoba this year. So the KRTP jointly led that, and actually Derek came out this year as well. We reached capacity very quickly. We had 20 participants, so we will be doing it again this year, and maybe there's room for 2 if there's a lot of people, if it's in high demand. It was quite interesting that we had a diverse range of people coming out. It was an intro to queen rearing, but we had hobbyists looking to scale up. We had commercial people and who brought along their staff to learn, so it was really nice to see that. Very briefly, just because I am trying to save time here and catch up so we can hear a lot more about the details of the projects I've been working on and collaborating with. But with the U of M collaboration, I think it was mentioned earlier, like the physical proximity between my office, which is in the entomology building, the Curry Lab, and Derek just across the street. That's super helpful, and just like all of the resources and knowledge, the advice that I can seek through the Curry Lab and through Derek, that's really helpful. So even though I'm new here to the province, I think those ties are remaining very strong. Also, when the KRTP can lend a hand with some work with the U of M, we try to lend a hand when we can, with field work or in the lab. So lastly, with the Amitraz resistance testing, I think, Dr. Purnell really covered the mite resistance issue yesterday, and Derek touched on it. So I'm not going to talk too long about it, but we did a small amount of testing this year. So this was done based on beekeepers' requests in 2 cases, and in 2 cases, colonies identified through the monitoring program that had mite levels, and we wanted to get some more testing done. So we did with 4 different producers, and we saw efficacy ranging anywhere from 11% to 45%. So just kind of continues this trend of waning efficacy. This was published in the Manitoba Beekeeper magazine, so you might have read it there and saw a few more details about it. I guess the one thing we were able to do different this year is the NBDC was ready to collect the mites from us to do the genotypic testing. So we sent Derek's 2021 mites in, and they've been processed, and we're just waiting for the 2023 mites to be processed. It shouldn't be much longer now, and what they do is they check for genetic mutations in the mites. So providing a bit more data, and then, as Derek mentioned, we'll kind of see what happens going forward, how much more testing we would do in the field versus maybe sending mites to the lab, and on an annual basis, how much we'd be looking to do. But I mean, if you want to find something out about your colonies, and you know that there's about a 5% or enough mites to actually test out there, contact me, and we can try to get you some information back on your hives. So moving on to some of the research plans for 2024. The syrup trial, which you're going to hear all about in about 5 minutes, we still need to continue to wrap that up. It was started kind of in August, more or less, I guess, when we were locating syrups and then getting them out to the colonies in September. But that needs to be wrapped up, and then to really bring it full circle and get any of the outreach material and stuff, things that we've learned out to beekeepers. Same with Greenlight Biosciences. So the MBA had been working for a long time on putting together a trial to test the RNAi product for varroa control with Greenlight, and that finally happened this spring. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in the next presentation, but that's another one that we're hoping to continue this year and kind of bring the whole project full circle. With Nature Recombined Science, again, we've had a connection with them now since I think, the fall before I got here, so October 2022. And we're looking to do like lab experiments with them. So what we need for those lab experiments is mites. And one of the delays in doing the lab experiments has been having mites. I guess I'll make this brief, but I will say that if in the spring you come across colonies and you say, wow, there's a lot of mites in here, it doesn't hurt to give me a call and ask if I want access to them, and the KRTP would potentially buy a colony and we'll pick it up, and we need those mites to get our work done. And sometimes we can find mites ourselves or raise them kind of, but just wanted to kind of put that feeler out there. Future research plans, one of the things that came up was looking at the impacts of oxalic acid beyond efficacy. So there's a lot of research looking at the efficacy of oxalic acid. I think it's becoming a more and more important tool for everybody these days, and there's potentially going to be this glycerin formulation coming on being registered. But it's been mentioned to me by, I've been advised that there's not as much research on potential negative impacts and at what dosages and times of year and colony size and stuff. So how that might be impacting brood production, colony size, supersedure. That's something that we're thinking about looking at and maybe like putting together a study design over the next couple months here. So in case anything, falls through in other plans, we might have that to rely on or have it in our back pocket sort of for the following year. I actually just heard a lot of interesting kind of stuff about that, projects that were done on this topic of testing for the potential negative impacts of oxalic acid on the colonies done by Dr. Sarah Wood this past summer. So keep your eyes open for more of that if you hear her talking about it. But we'd like to maybe pursue a bit more of that. So other plans, bee health monitoring plan will continue. I was going to talk a bit more about that, but just for time, I'm going to cut it short. Again, I'm going to update the registration forms and put up information online. So please check out through the MBA website, the KRTP spot for that. With the Manitoba canola growers, has this mic been too low the entire time, or I don't know? Okay. So with the Manitoba canola growers, yeah, they've given us, again, like I mean, they've contributed to the program a few times, and this year we're going to put some of these funds towards improving communication and understanding between growers and beekeepers. So that's a two-way street, and that's what we're working on over the next 2 months, and we hope to complete that by May 1st for that resource development. Continued collaboration with other tech programs and researchers across Canada. I mean, as long as we can continue to contribute to larger research projects with different researchers, I mean, that's another one of those kind of side things that we continue to do. Yeah, I think I should talk about the potential for a Manitoba Queen Breeders Association. So some people had expressed interest in reigniting a Queen Breeders Association here. So the KRTP convened a meeting with some of those people expressing interest and some of the former members to recap the history, what was done, and possible future directions. So it's pretty apparent that the past breeding program had a lot of positive things come out of it, and it worked. And it's apparent that having some form of breeders group is a kind of a no-brainer for being part of a progressive industry. So in the end, I mean, interested beekeepers will need to reach a consensus on the goals, but the KRTP will be seeking to find its supportive role with a group. So I'm going to post a summary of sort of the Manitoba Queen Breeders Association and some of the ideas that have been brought up for what can be started now going forward. So I'm going to put that up again on the MBA website and the KRTP little part. So probably within 2 weeks. So take a look there, and if you have any interest in that, please contact me, come up to me for the rest of the day. I will be probably stationed at that computer, but please contact me about it, and we'll look to convene another meeting so that people can come together. So I think I'm sure I have 2 more minutes. So kind of plug a couple things about the KRTP and what keeps us running. One of the challenges we have currently and the MBA is working on is we don't own a vehicle. In the past year, I think Derek probably used his own personal vehicle a lot and then, paid out some mileage to him. But the past year, I was relying on a truck borrowed from Daryl. We're not going to solve that problem here right now, and the MBA is working on it. But if you ever see a decent truck come up, or you might have one around, it doesn't hurt to get in touch with me or Ian or somebody. Let us know, and it could be an option, because now we're just kind of getting our funds in place to figure this out. Another thing was hive donations. Yeah, we have a well-funded program, but there's not a lot in the budget line for something like purchasing hives or stuff like that. So we try to keep up our own hive numbers year to year. That will fluctuate, and new projects at times do require hives. So I was at the Brandon area Beekeepers meeting, and someone asked me if we need hive donations, and I guess the best example was like each year is going to be different, but I can say that, for example, in the past year, setting up the syrup trial that we worked on with Dr. Curry, the KRTP provided 7 hives, and the university provided nearly 50. So there's no way we could have put that together at the last minute on our own, and it was a time-sensitive project where we kind of needed to use those syrups that were already kind of degrading because we were testing poor syrups. So just a good example of, like, if you have 2 nukes that you would like to donate to the program, if it doesn't go into a research trial in some way, we might end up producing honey off it. and that money would go back into the program. So something to keep in mind, and again, contact me about any of these things I've mentioned so far. And I guess the other way I've been trying to reach people, I mean, whether it's an important message, it might go through Derek or go through Daryl. But I've been trying to be in touch with the Beekeepers on Facebook and Instagram. And I mean, one of the advantages of that is just if I'm seeking mites or I'm seeking honey samples or something like that, and those honey samples that you provide are then going to provide data back to you. I would say just try to follow me on Facebook, and all the most important notices are going to be coming out through Derek and the association and everything like that. But it's good to be in touch, and always welcome to hear your comments, feedback, and all that. So with that, I think I'm going to move on because Dr. Curry is going to be presenting on syrup, and I'm going to follow up a bit with that with him. But I can take probably a couple questions before we move on. Oh, and I should also get to my thank you slide. So these are some of the people I've worked the most closely with this year. There's a lot more people and beekeepers who've cooperated with the KRTP, who've donated things, but on a day-to-day basis, I just wanted to thank a few people.